Core Club with Amy Aniobi. Hey y'all, nice to meet you. So we're just gonna talk about being creatives and all that goes along with it. And I hope you guys enjoy and get something good out of it. All right, so how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, and I just want to say I love The Root. Like yes, it's like I always like, they seem to get the news, black news, faster than like Deadline or Hollywood Reporter. I'm like, well, The Root says somebody's making a movie, and then I'm waiting for the other outlets to talk about it. So thank you for everything you do.
Oh, cool, thank you. But let's talk about you. So let's talk about, first of all, how you got involved with Insecure.
Yeah, for sure. So it's, you know, like everything in this town, I feel like as a creative, very often it looks on the outside like people just kind of get discovered, like it's so fast and easy. But I always say, like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes a long time to get anywhere good. And the origin story of me getting on Insecure actually goes back to Issa's first web series, Awkward Black Girl. And if you want to rewind even further, it goes back to me being a student at Stanford, which is where I first met Tracy Oliver, who co-produced Awkward Black Girl with Issa. So it's this long, like, you just never know where, like, how staying in touch with people is going to benefit you in some way down the line. But Tracy was my little sib at Stanford. Like, basically, like, in the communities of color, there was like an upperclassman. You take a younger classman to like help them, show them the ropes, that kind of thing, so they can acclimate to being in a super white environment. And so Tracy was my little sib. And after graduation, when she went to the USC Stark program, she let me know. And for anyone who doesn't know, Tracy Oliver wrote Girls Trip. So like she's in her own right an amazing writer and creator. And she and Issa were co-producing the show, and she reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to write on Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl? Now this was before it had blown up or anything, and I was just kind of like, sounds fun, yeah, of course, I'll do it. And then I saw like the love it was getting, and I didn't realize it because I wasn't like hip to the internet. Like a lot of us weren't. Like there weren't like web series back then. Right. So I was like, oh yeah, sure, I want to do that. And then I like actually checked it out and saw how huge it was, and I was like, oh my God, Tracy, thank you for this opportunity. I'm so happy. And I had met Issa at Stanford, but we were different classes, so I didn't know her super well. But I wrote for that web series, and even after the show ended, I knew by that point, like I was in grad school at UCLA, I was studying to be a TV writer, so I knew what I wanted to do. And every job I got, from being an assistant to actually getting staffed, I would always email Issa and be like, here's this thing. And it was just something that sometimes you recognize that somebody has that thing, and she had it. Like she just was so caring and giving and generous, and also so talented, like naturally funny, and brought other people up with her. And I just knew that she was someone that like would get when I said like, no, I'm really happy about this job, but like say the word and I'll come back to you. It's like, it's not me being ungrateful, it's me understanding like what it is and the power of working for Black women over working for, you know, anybody else. And so I was just kind of like, not naming names, white people. Anyway, I was just really excited to stay in touch with her, and every single job that I got, I would always email her. And then when Insecure got picked up, I was like, I think I'm just gonna like shoot my shot. And by this point, I'd already been in the HBO family. I'd written for season 2 of Silicon Valley. So it was like, it wasn't like coming from out of nowhere to ask, but I still felt very unsure, because you never wanna be the person who's begging from someone who a lot of people are begging from. So I just kind of was like, hey, like, you know, here are my credits. Like, I know you have a lot of mouths to feed, but I would love to be considered. And if it doesn't happen, no big deal, but I would feel foolish if I didn't put myself out there. And she was like, don't worry, girl, I'll come find you. And I emailed her back and I said, let me be clear. I'm standing in the middle of a field and I'm not wearing camouflage. You have found me. So just let me know, because I'm here. And I was like, but again, no sweat, if it doesn't work out, it's fine. You know, I was like just really trying to be cool. And then when I finally got the call, like my agents were talking to me and they're like, it could happen, but we just don't know, we haven't heard yet, they haven't made hires. And then finally I got that call and I was just so happy. And like getting into that room, and it's like, there were, season 1, I think there were 9 writers, and it was like 7 black women and or 6 black women and a black man and a white guy. You got to have your token, and then a white woman, and then like 3 people who identify as queer, and like different ages and different experience levels. And it's the most diverse room I've ever been in. But it was a marathon. It started way back before I even knew I was starting this race. I was stretching, and then finally, it like all of the preparation caught up, and that's how it happened.
That was an amazing story, right? Like amazing. So it was like an episode of Insecure, and we're all sitting there. And then what happened?
And then Lawrence came back.
But you touched on a couple of things that I want to circle back to. The first being building your network, which is so important, and it starts not just, you know, once you start rubbing elbows with people with big names, but with the people who are your contemporaries right now, right?
For sure.
So what would you say your probably top 5 best nuggets of advice about building a network, and where to start with that?
Yeah, for sure. Number 1 is, I think, like, a lot of people actually waste time networking up instead of networking across. It's your peers who are giving you the jobs. Like, that's the thing I didn't understand. I was like, I don't know any showrunners when I was starting out. And then it's like every assistant job I've gotten has been from someone my age at my level who heard about a job and they weren't available, and then they passed it to me. You know, it's like the people at the top are already, their hands are full. And so they're not able very often to look down, and they're not hearing about the jobs because they're at a level, like, it was a weird divide. Like, I heard about so many assistant jobs when I was an assistant. And literally the minute I got staffed, it was like I never heard about assistant jobs again. And I was like, but I still have friends who need to be assistants, but I would never hear about them. So I feel like, number 1, network across, spend more time networking across. Number 2, say the thing you want to do. I think a lot of people call themselves like, I'm an aspiring writer. It's like, well, I work at Starbucks, but I really want to be an actor, you know? And it's like, just say the thing. It's like, I remember people saying, like, there are so many great artists who were not recognized until they were dead, or weren't recognized until their old age. But were they not artists? Were they not creating art even though they weren't making money for it? Of course they were. So it's like, just claim it. If you don't claim it for you, who's going to claim it for you? You know, it's like, you have to be able to tell people what you want to give them before they're willing to accept you as that. And always remind them. I remember I made a game for myself when I first moved to LA. I was like, any networking party I go to, I need to tell 5 people that I'm a writer, you know? And I would just always like work my way. I'm saying hi to people and I'm like, oh, I'm a writer. And lots of times people would be like, oh, you're a writer? What do you write for? And I was like, well, you know, I mostly write for my laptop, but that is my goal. And so I'm saying it, you know? And like, yeah, of course, some people looked at me sideways, but who's laughing now, you know? I'm like, you never know. You never know. So it's like, but if you can't claim it, then who's gonna claim it for you? I mean, like, let me think. Number 3, do it before you're ready. Like, everything you should be doing before you're ready. I remember running into people who would be like, because someone else will have already done it. Like, that's the number 1 thing is like, if you're over here, like, I have a web series idea about like a baseball cap that's evil. And then tomorrow there's like a movie and it's like a evil baseball cap from the South. And you're like, oh, dang, somebody stole my idea. But if you had just jumped on it and done it, you would have it. And then it's like proof that you can do it. And once you've done something, it's almost like being an artist is like being a doctor. Like, when you're a doctor, you go through the residency to prove that you've already been a doctor before they call you a doctor. You've already been doctoring. So it's the same thing as an artist. It's like, you should be doing the thing you want to do. I had created 2 web series before I ever got staffed, and I had worked on Awkward Black Girl. So by the time I was getting staffed, I'm like, I've already been a showrunner. You know, it's like in this small way, in this tiny scale with a budget of 4 pennies, but still, had I led a room, had I led a production meeting, had I picked a cast, had I picked locations, yeah, that's what being a showrunner is. So it was like kind of exciting to get to that place and be like, I've already done the thing that they're asking me to do, and now I'm less scared, you know? So that's 3 things. Let me think, a 4th and a 5th. Number 4, don't talk yourself out of being able to do things. I find, like, especially if you want to be a writer, very often I've met people who are like, I want to have a web series, but I want it to be action-packed and I want a car to explode, and I don't have a budget to make the car explode, so I better not write the web series because it'll be bad. And I'm like, wait, but constraints breed creativity. It's like Danny Boyle's best film isn't The Beach, where he had all the money. It's Slumdog Millionaire, where he had none of the money. You know, it's like Quentin Tarantino's first film is Reservoir Dogs. He wanted to show the heist, he couldn't afford it, so he showed everything after the heist. So it's like our job is not to let constraints stop us. And I think sometimes it's fear that makes you think of things to stifle yourself, but you have to let go of that fear and find people who will help you let go of that fear, because it's not easy. It's like we're always going to be doubting ourselves. That's natural. But if you have peers around you, if you have a metaphor club around you that's going to be there and be like, no, you had said that you were going to write this thing, so where is it? Then you're not talking yourself out of good opportunities that could come your way. And also, I would say number 5 is be ego-free. And I think this is a hard thing to balance, because part of being an artist is having the ego to say, I deserve this space, I deserve to act, I deserve for someone to hear my words. But it's also like when people give you notes, if you've gotten the same note 4 times, maybe it's a note you should listen to. If you've been told no, or someone has not responded to your reel several times, then maybe it's time to edit that reel, So it's like being able to put your ego aside and have that balance of I'm still learning. No matter where you are in the process, you're still learning. It's like I'm a co-EP, but I'm still learning. And if I don't take notes because I think, well, I've got it, well, then I'm never going to continue to grow. So I think those are 5 things.
5 good things too, right?